Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the esteemed Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, as only you can do, I think you summarized today's events as...
As today is Inauguration Day and the coup is complete. 4 years of lies, deception, fraud. The Democrats have taken full control of the government. And it really just is horrifying how many people are in denial about what they've done. And worse, how many people are cheering the way that they did it.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes in life, though, be careful what you wish for. The ball's now in their court. I think what happened to Trump I don't know how history, now, again, we've talked about this. If it was a more sympathetic figure, I think it would have been more clear cut, but he did bring a lot of it on himself. Didn't deserve what happened.
No, but he was antagonistic. He did not listen to advisors. He was a bull in a china shop. And the fact that the media was against him from day one. I mean, let's face it. History is just looking back at what we're now looking at current events. So the fact that the media is recording all of this with a negative spin, Trump has no legacy. His, history is not going to view him well. And I'm only hoping that historians will take a look and go, wait a minute, he had a historically strong economy. He had unemployment at historic lows for all people. He did 4 Middle East peace treaties, which was unprecedented. I'm hoping history actually looks back and goes, wait a minute, maybe he wasn't portrayed fairly.
It could happen because years ago, 100 years, they had, the whole muckraking and the press was lambasted. It could happen.
Yes.
But this whole pie-eyed, 1950s, leave it to Beaver about, the democratic process, that is gone, baby.
It is. I mean, the democratic process has completely failed us because
that is as antiquated as leave it to Beaver.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, when the people responsible for overseeing votes and making sure that they are counted fairly are forced out of the room and pushed away and counting goes on without that oversight. And we know this happened because over 100 Democratic poll workers filed affidavits that they were not allowed to oversee the count. So we know that fraud went on. Again, unfortunately, knowing it and being able to prove it in a court of law are two different things. But now we have to move forward. And unfortunately, we have to make sure things don't get worse.
I don't see. I'm the eternal pessimist. Between sometimes, I am an historian though, and it's like everything else. We've already, how do you say, pushed the envelope. Like, in other words, what was beyond belief is now every day. So we were already here, if that makes any sense to you.
Right.
What transpired over the last 4 years. So I think impeachment's going to be something, Nixon, you could debate, yes or no, but, quasi-crimes were committed.
Impeachment is a bad joke. Because
yes, exactly.
He's already out of office, so they can't actually do anything. And constitutional lawyers, liberal Democrats have come out and said that there is not evidence to go after Trump in a court of law. They don't have that. They can impeach him because they're doing it without evidence. But in court, they would be laughed out.
Okay, but hasn't the president already been set that Republicans and Democrats, because it works both ways, the president's already been set that you don't like a president, if you look hard enough, you can impeach a ham sandwich.
Yeah, that's what the Democrats showed. And unfortunately, well, I mean, right now the Republicans don't have the votes in either the House or the Senate to pull anything like that. And I am sincerely hoping that none of them get the idea to try, because it was a bad idea when the Democrats did it. It's a worse idea if the Republicans try to go after Biden that way, because the only thing worse than a Biden presidency at this point would be a Harris presidency.
Okay, let's talk about going forward. Let's be a little optimistic. If you are conservative, for our listeners, I believe you own it now, not you, Dr. Lopkin. The Democrats are great at manipulating democracy and working around the fringes. They've done that for years. Governing, that's a different story. My gut feeling, and you don't have to be a genius to figure this one out, Biden falls flat on it. He's embarrassed on the world stage, and you can't hide in your basement when you're the president. You can hide, but you can't hide forever. His presidency fails, and I think there's a red wave 2 years from now unless something bizarre happens.
I have no doubt there will be a red wave in 2 years. On the global stage, Biden has already started embarrassing himself. He announced that one of the executive orders that he is signing today is to halt construction on the Keystone Pipeline. And the Canadians are pissed. He's already aggravated a foreign government because the Keystone Pipeline is not just a benefit to the U.S., it's a big benefit to Canada. And he's already aggravated
100%. It's already started. You'll see it in oil prices soon. Unfortunately, we're going to have to live through this. You're in, the business world. I think business is going to be negatively impacted. I truly do.
There are a couple of things that he's pushing through that are going to cripple businesses going through. Most businesses are in a very precarious place right now. A lot of them don't know if they can reopen. A lot of them know that they're going to have to shut down. In this environment, in what he calls his COVID stimulus bill, Biden has already said he wants to raise the national minimum wage to $15. That's going to cripple small business and push them out of business. He's also said, I don't know if it's in the bill, but he's made comments about that he wants this. He wants grocery stores to pay their workers hazard pay retroactively. That's going to, grocery stores work at a very thin margin. That's going to cripple grocery stores, and it's going to increase the price of food, which of course we've talked about this. The most recent numbers I have are only from November, but 15 million people every month are saying they don't have enough food to get through the month, and he's going to raise the prices on food.
Well, you have to have a little comedic slant to this. You can't lie forever. They owned it. They helped make it happen. How does CNN and MSNBC and all the others, how do they spin that?
Yeah, I don't know how.
No, I'm not talking about his presidency is going to be unspinnable. Sorry, unspinnable.
It really is. I don't know how they're going to manage to spin this. I suspect, and I'm basing this on what happened to CNN and MSNBC after Obama took office, that their ratings are just going to plummet because they don't have an enemy to go after anymore.
And they don't have credibility either.
Right. They can't go after the Biden administration because they helped prop him up. So I suspect their ratings are going to plummet. We'll see what happens. You are going to see a plethora of new podcasts, new social media platforms, new conservative radio shows, because this is now an audience that feels they're trying to marginalize them. They're trying to take away their voice. So you are going to find that they are going to get more organized and come back stronger than ever. My fear, I have talked to some people around the country, and once you leave the coasts, the anger is palpable. In fact, one person I spoke to in Indiana told me gun stores can't even keep ammo in stock because people are stocking up. I hope, and I implore anybody who is listening not to resort to violence, but we are reaching a point where we are completely ungovernable, and we've got to step back from that.
I would agree. One final question, more somewhat amusing. It's been amusing to me because I see the signs of huge houses with Biden, Harris. So how about the liberal intelligentsia, the boy and girl geniuses out there that thought it was a good idea to get rid of the yellow man, the orange man? How are they going to be digging this 2 years from now or a year and a half from now? What's their line then?
Honestly, I think they'll be fine with it because the liberal intelligentsia has shown an incredible potential for ignoring what's actually going on, putting blinders on, and just pretending that their viewpoint works.
Okay, I agree with that. They've been exceptionally gifted at that. But when your job is in jeopardy because the company's not hiring, when your 401k is going on the crapper, those are things. I always think the liberal intelligentsia is great when it doesn't affect them. Okay? When it affects them, then that's a whole different story. This will eventually affect them.
Well, again, I tend to think of the liberal intelligentsia as higher education, which
I'm just talking about all the geniuses in like the affluent towns, Farmington, West Hartford, Avon, all the above, who thought they were so enlightened, so erudite to be voting against the mean old orange man, and now they're going to be living with it.
But you have to remember, to them, they're not going to be affected that much because they've already been living in incredibly liberal blue states. So the disaster is already among them, and they've ignored it.
Well, I differ a little bit on that. I think, when you live in, let's say, a Connecticut or New York, you're impacted by the policies of your blue state. But they were lifted up in spite of being victimized by the locality and where they live, by Trump's policy. You remove Trump's policy and you have a double indemnity in terms of asinine policies. I think it's going to affect the people I'm talking. Not the intelligentsia, you're correct about that, the academics and all the above, or the trust fund babies, but your upper middle class, middle and upper executives, so on and so forth, it's going to affect them in a big way.
And you know what? Andrew Cuomo yesterday has already said that if the federal government does not bail out New York, he is going to sue the Biden administration. So the Democrats are already fighting amongst themselves. They're all trying to grab their piece of the pie. And guess what? They're going to find out the pie's not as big as they think it is. And nobody is going to get what they really thought a Biden administration was going to be able to deliver.
We'll have to stay tuned, and we will be live this Friday for another edition of Carnivore Bites. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll join you live on Friday at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio, where you can be part of the conversation and give us a call. We'll see you then.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.